Welcome to Why Don't We Dress for Dinner Anymore with America's sweetheart and senior style icon, Teddi Krochman.
And Melissa Pierce, natural redhead, red lipstick wearer, and fashionista.
It's true.
Today we have our special guest, Melissa Carter. And I'd like to tell you just a little bit about Melissa. Melissa is the owner and creative director of Kameo Vintage, a Chicago-based pre-loved styling brand known for its curated mix of timeless pieces and standout statement looks. With a background in corporate retail and sustainable fashion, Melissa specializes in high and low styling, blending luxury with everyday pieces to create elevated, personal, and effortlessly chic looks. Welcome to the show, Melissa.
Hey there, hey, how you
Hey,
guys
hey,
doing?
I just love that greeting of yours. All your Instagrams start with "Hey, they,
Because you just never know nowadays. Like, I don't want to gender people, so I just say, hey, they, hey, she, they, hey, he, they. So I got everyone covered. Hey, who art they?
That's what we kind of guess. That's what we kind of. I said, Melissa always says, "Hey, they, hey." I have to ask her what that means. I says, I wonder if she's being correct or and Melissa said inclusive, and we guessed
Yes.
right. We guessed
Yes.
right. So, Melissa, tell us what drew you to vintage in the first place.
So I was born and raised on Chicago's North Shore, and when I was in fifth grade, I just noticed that everybody was the same. Everybody dressed the same. Everybody looked the same. It was very much of a homogeneous environment, and I've always been creative. I've always been different, and my mom wasn't going to spend at the time $300 on a Kate Spade bag.
Oh, yeah.
So I instantly knew and fell in love with vintage when I went downtown to Belmont, and that's when Hollywood Mirror was still open.
Yes.
And I just went wild. I was shopping the 1940s, the 1960s. And by the time I was in seventh grade, I was invited to bar and bat mitzvahs, and I was wearing like 1940s capes. And my mom was like, "Who is this child? Like, why does she look like a 1940s lady?" So my love for vintage and all things fashion started very early for me. I knew I was going to sell vintage before it was like this big thing.
Yeah.
I knew I was going to live in New York, and I knew I was going to be in fashion. So I really do think that I am following my purpose.
Wow. So it sounds like you're one of those few kids who kind of knows from early childhood what they want to do, and then they just make it happen in adulthood, which is rare,
Yes.
because most of us grapple with so many different things that we want to try and do and can't pinpoint. But there are some people like you who just know right out the gate what they want to do, and you sound like you were one of them.
Right.
I was.
And Melissa doesn't seem like she lost any of that artistry that she had
Oh,
as a child.
absolutely
You just
not.
start like you pull that. You've just been pulling it.
Yeah, I mean, you can
Yeah,
see the
yeah.
background. Look at how beautiful the background is that she has.
And
Oh, I forgot my background's on. But yes. But
It's fabulous, Alicia.
okay.
Looks great.
yeah. And what you're wearing, obviously.
This I actually made. So I didn't
What
make the
time?
blazer, but I upcycled it with all this paint. Recently,
That's
my father passed
fabulous.
away,
Look at that.
and I was like, wanted to do something creative. So
Oh, I
I
love
used
that.
all of his old paint, and then I found a shoe of his, and I put one of his shoes on the sleeves, and it was just
I
kind of a
love
way,
that.
like an ode to my father type of thing.
Okay, but you did a
Oh,
pinstripe jacket with a cowboy hat.
Yes, yes.
What?
the cowboy hat's kind of her signature, isn't it, Melissa?
You know what? It wasn't before. I was in a thrift store, got this cowboy hat, and all of a sudden the spirit of Cowgirl Carter came over. And it was before Beyonce's little album, not little, but it was before her album. I'm like, and I just now have like this personal, like, I'm very passionate about like Western wear and like moto wear. So I'm bald, so I'm always cold. And I was like, this is great. I'm warm, I'm stylish. It's a vibe.
Yeah. Oh, and you have great bone structure, so
Oh, thank
you
you.
can pull that off. In fact, my husband, when we met you at the Randolph Street Market, he said to me, "Boy, that Melissa is really cute."
Well, thanks.
He likes all these young girlfriends that I have. He's an old man eyeballing all the young girls. Melissa's really cute.
I love that.
Right? Oh, when we were at the sneaker thing,
Uh-huh.
and Melissa's like, "Oh, I didn't wear sneakers," and I was like, "Oh, nobody's looking at your feet."
You weren't wearing sneakers, and you were what? I was wearing stilettos of all.
I was wearing Tim's. I was like, well, how can I get into the sneaker vibe? So I wore a Coogee sweater from the 90s and a Carl Kanai jacket and Tim's. So I felt like Jenny from the block.
You looked incredible.
You did.
Thank you.
Great.
Thank you guys so much.
Well, here's another fascinating thing that I think our viewers and our listeners need to know is that you actually have a friendship relationship with Patricia Field.
I
For
do.
those of you who don't know who Patricia Field is, she is the stylist who styled all of the looks on the famous show Sex and the City. She styled The Devil Wears Prada, and I'm sure there's plenty of other credits that she has, but those are the two big ones that she's known for in this particular last couple decades. How did you come to know Pat Fields, Melissa? How did she become your mentor? And ultimately, how would you say she influenced your own style?
Or how did you influence her?
Right. Well, it's funny. She's so funny and she's so interesting. When I first moved to New York, it was one of the first stores that I shopped at, and I loved it because it was so inclusive. I mean, she had like drag queens working there, trannies working there, vintage, just everything you can think of under the sun. And I didn't have a relationship with her, but I always said to myself, in the era of Betsy Johnson and Patricia Fields, like that's where I see myself. Like these are my people. It wasn't much later in life when I opened up my business in my storefront, and I was really kind of having trouble understanding, like, what am I doing? I have a very decent resume, retail resume. I've led teams. This is not making me any money. Is this a passion project gone wrong? Like, what am I doing? So I went to New York and was looking through my Instagram, saw that she opened up this private studio, much like mine. So the next day I marched myself to the Lower East Side, went there as soon as they opened, and Patricia was smoking a cigarette outside.
That's why she's got that low voice.
Yes. Yes. And then I said to her, when you're done, I would just love to have a conversation with you. So we sat down and I said to her, how are you doing this? What made you successful? And what advice do you have for me? I'm like, I think you're great, but honestly, fuck who you are. I need help. So she really sat down with me and said, you need to be in this not for the money, because she was like, there are so many times where I've been in the red for doing pop-up shops in Miami, for supporting this and supporting that. She's like, I didn't make my money from retail. I made money because I owned the building on Bowery and sold it. And Sex and the City, that was me going off on a whim. It was a friend of a friend who needed a stylist. We didn't know it was going to be this big show.
Right.
They had no budget. So I leaned on vintage.
She did.
Yes. So after speaking with her for about 30 or 40 minutes, I said to her, well, I would love if you could just mentor me. And I would also love if I could curate the vintage in your store.
Wait, you didn't know her from Adam. She didn't know you from Go. You just mentioned she's smoking a cigarette. Hey, I'd love to talk to you.
Yes.
And she gave you 40 minutes of her time just from...
Yes,
just from asking.
She's amazing. It really goes to show people who are in this because they either want the name, or people who are in this because they are truly passionate about fashion and people.
Yes.
And she's one of those people. She is 80. She still sits in her store on the Lower East Side. You could see her at any time. And she is more than willing to have a conversation with anyone about fashion.
That's fabulous.
So I've been curating vintage in her stores for the last 2 years. I am an intern some days when I work there. When I'll be like, Patricia, your website, you need to upload things. So, of course, she does not pay me, but but she did give me this. This is what Carrie Bradshaw wore in Sex and the City.
Let me put my glasses on so I can see.
The horseback.
Oh, you got the horse's head that big?
So she gave me this for a payment one day, and I said, "Are you sure, girl? Because your tutu sold for like $1 million at an auction." And she's like, "I just don't want you to sell it." And I said, "Well, okay. Well, if times are rough, honey, it might get sold, but but it's nice to have a piece of Sex in the City in my store, and it's nice to have her in my store, even though she is not here. But she's an amazing human. She's an amazing human, and it really goes to show that style is timeless. Like, she's the face of Balenciaga. She has a book out. Like, she's an incredible person. So
yeah, she's like considered one of the top stylists in film and everything. And when you hear people talking about her, I've seen different shows where they either mention Patricia Field, or everybody has such high regard for her.
Oh, she's amazing. Everybody. She's amazing.
I mean, you never hear anybody saying anything even just mildly bad about her. I mean, it's always over the top. She's a fabulous, welcoming person.
Very.
And I think that helps any business person. If you can relate to your customers and they relate back to you, that's really what gives you impetus for sales and exposure and everything else. Just like she said to you, Melissa, when she started on Sex and the City, they had like a negligent wardrobe budget and everything sourced for them. And you could see a little bit of the difference.
Yes.
In the beginning Sex and the City episodes, you can see all the women are very well put together. A lot of them are wearing vintagey kinds of things, but the quality of the clothes started to increase as the popularity of the show increased. They started wearing actual designer pieces, stuff like that.
Yes.
She did a lot with very little. And that's what made the show successful.
And it's correct. Like, just your relationship with her, she gave you permission to just go for it.
Yeah.
And you have really done that.
Yeah. I will say that she has definitely taught me that, anything that you want to do in fashion is possible. And if you go into her store, there are obviously things there that are not for everybody.
Right.
But what she's able to do is create a safe space for anyone who's unique and different. And I feel like I've been able to do that at Kameo Vintage. Most of my interns do not fit the status quo of the North Shore. They're either queer, gay, or not sure where they're going in life, but they just need someone to support them along whatever journey they have. And she has taught me that not only to create a safe space, but also to have your store, but then also have services. Mm-hmm. So go ahead.
So you were in New York and now you have a store on the North Shore of Chicago.
Correct.
And it's in a place where you're like, it doesn't fit, but yet it's thriving.
Yeah.
How does that happen?
It's funny. I think when I initially got to to the North Shore, I was born and raised in Highland Park. And during COVID, I pulled my son out of Zoom school because I did not believe in it. And we drove from New York to Chicago. We just took a road trip and we would stop in all the states that were open and thrift. So by the time I got to Chicago, my car was like bursting open.
Wow. I'd love to be in that car.
It was crazy.
Does your son love thrift? Does he
love my son, of course he loves thrift. He was thrifting in the womb. He was like, it's funny because he has allergies too, so he can only take so much thrift. But now he's actually going to the Art Institute this summer for fashion construction, as well as Northwestern Business School for like a summer program.
Fabulous.
Yes.
How old is your son?
14.
Oh, my grandson's 14.
Yes.
Oh, how sweet. Yes. That's wonderful.
So when I got here, I just was like, let me just do a pop-up shop. And at the time, I was more like one of the first live sellers. It's like when people were just kind of trying to make ends meet on Instagram. So after losing my job as the district recruiter for Coach and leaning into my passion, which was thrifting, I said, you know what, I'm going to do this pop-up have an office right on East Elm, where no one goes, right? So I was in a real estate office, Coldwell Banker, and the way that it's zoned is this real estate office had to have a business in the front in order to keep their lease. So I was like, okay. So I'm like, who cares? I don't care. No one's going into stores. What I did is I merchandised the front of the real estate office to look like this really phenomenal New York store.
Wow.
And as you guys know, people were walking so much more during COVID.
To get
so they
out
would pass by this real estate office and be like, what is this?
Yeah.
So that's where it started getting momentum.
Wow.
Then the real estate office closed. And then I found, the properties in Winnetka are extremely expensive.
Yeah.
But I found a building and I saw this little glass room and it said like for rent. And I was like, oh, that's so interesting. This looks like a store that I would see in Paris and the Lower East Side because it's so small.
Yeah.
It happened to be the waiting room to the building and they couldn't rent it because you couldn't be 6 feet apart. So what I saw was a small space that I could leverage my business. So my actual storefront is the waiting room to this building.
Wow.
And I have 4 rooms of vintage. And what's great about it, it's a month-to-month lease. Everything's included. It's a 24-hour building. So some months I might have 5 rooms, and then I'll tell my landlord, okay, cut me back down to 4 rooms. So I've been in every single room in this building. Yes.
Oh, that's such good business sense. Good. I'm so excited. I'm so excited for the possibility that is your business lease. That's ridiculous. Sorry.
So in the beginning, people were like, you should have a store. Why are you in Winnetka? There's a couple of reasons why I'm in Winnetka. One is from common sense. When I initially started my business, my EIN number was in New York. So technically I'm a foreign business. And that means I would not only have to pay the tax of the community, but I would have to pay another additional tax on top of that because I'm not from the area. Mm-hmm. Winnetka is the one place that you do not have to do that. The other reason is 70% of the businesses in Winnetka are woman owned.
Oh, really?
And you don't need a business license. Although I have one, you literally could see a space and say, I want to set up here. They will give you the keys the same day and you can open up.
Sounds like I need to shop Winnetka a little often, honestly.
And then the other reason is like there are no vintage shops here, right? And they do have vintage shops and consignment stores, but where I think vintage vendors, vintage stores fail is that they don't understand the power of service. And I think when you go to a vintage store, they have racks of beautiful clothing, but there's no one to say, you know what, if you were to wear this with this would be a good look. Or let's look at your body shape. Your body shape belongs to the 50s. So I'm going to pull out 1950s wiggle dresses.
Oh, so, I actually love that. Speak more to that. Your body shape belongs to an era of dress?
Absolutely. I think more and more women need to understand as more women join the workforce, silhouettes change. But before that, everything was farm to table. So some people can't wear vintage because you have to understand farm to table means that you were eating better, you were working in a farm, and a size 8 from the 1950s or the 1940s is really today's size 4 because people were more physical. So when you look at a woman's body shape, and this is what I've learned in luxury retail, you never want to put someone in something that isn't too small because immediately they feel defeated. And with vintage, it's very tricky. If you don't know your customer's body shape or where their bust lies, putting them into vintage when they already feel like, I don't know how to do this, is very uncomfortable. Yeah. So what I've decided to do is not only create a space where I'm pulling items down for them so they don't get overwhelmed. I'm also allowing them to bring their items in and saying, some woman has a dress and she's like, I don't know what to wear with this. They're able to pull vintage accessories and things of that nature. So I help them complete their look from A to Z. Okay. So that's in the storefront, but then I offer a service where it's more so I bring the vintage to you along with a Saks and Nordstrom's pull. So if you're not comfortable in vintage, because not everyone can wear it, then I lean on Saks and Nordstrom's, do a stylist pull, and then I'll have recs of vintage and high fashion, and then we'll create looks together.
So you do a whole stylist thing then.
Correct.
That's fabulous.
I love the business.
You have to give us email us your location of your store and we'll make sure we include that in the description. So
absolutely.
You want to know how to get there. I think I'm going to make a trip out there. It sounds fabulous.
Right. Is it appointment only or do you have regular hours or?
So I'm open by appointment or by chance. And I say that because this is
I
really
love it.
this is really an e-commerce space, and I allow the neighborhood to come and shop. But because we have 4 different rooms, sometimes I'll be upstairs getting ready for a trunk show. Like I had an early appointment in the city where I was supporting a woman with her closet, that I booked it back here. So technically, no, I'm not here at 12 in the afternoon when we're supposed to open, but I'm here right now. So, yes.
Yeah. Well, that's good to know, because I really want to make a trip out to your store now. I'm totally fascinated. I mean, I got a little glimpse, but there was so much. I went to the Randolph Street Market, as you know, and there was so much to see. I just spent maybe 3 minutes in each space because
It's overwhelming.
I was kind of overwhelmed. Yeah, a little bit.
And
so it would be nice to just go to one place and be able to kind of just really look through everything.
Yes.
You look like you have such interesting pieces. Like I said, that Marc Jacobs coat really grabbed me with the teddy bears. I thought, oh my gosh, if I were there, I would have bought that in a minute. That's too cute. My name's Teddi, and then I'm wearing teddy bears. I mean, how cute is that?
It was fun because she just got a job at a law firm, and she's a young girl. And I think the most powerful thing about style right now, especially when you sit in the C-suite, which is where a lot of my clients sit, is that their feminine energy is coming back. You have to remember, there were not a lot of women in corporate, and when there were, you were so suited and booted to try to blend in with the males. And now women are not doing that, which I love.
Great. That's great to hear, because I was in corporate America for 30 years, and I cannot tell you how many little sit downs I had about, Teddi, you need to blend in more.
Yes.
It's always in red and all this. They couldn't calm me down,
Yes, Teddi.
But they tried to suck it out of you, suck any creativity out of you that they can.
Yes.
So I'm glad to hear that women are breaking out of that corporate stodgy mold, where we're supposed to look like men, women dress like men. But I had read, I can't remember now where, if it was on your Instagram page or where, but I read that you were going to start a new YouTube channel called Kameo TV.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about that and what your goal is for that particular channel?
So I'm going to toot my own horn. As of now, I've been on every single TV network in Chicago. And
that's great. Tell us that secret.
I mean, I just
Melissa.
And my goal is to be positioned as an expert in this field. So on top of being on the television shows, or networks, I am on my 4th episode on my YouTube channel, Kameo TV. And it's really where you kind of follow me around to understand, like, okay, what is Kameo Vintage? Because I even think after 5 years, people don't really understand. But I am a multimedia brand that has a focus on vintage, but is pivoting into brand strategy. But you get a little bit of taste of me styling independent artists, me setting it up for Randolph Street Market. Patricia Field makes a little, we have an interview with her coming up. So it's great for just people really getting to know me. I'm starting to see in the world of social media, pictures are great, but people want to know you. And the reason why, like, the Kardashian brand has done so well, people could sit there and say that she's not talented. She is. I'm sorry. The fact that she has this many people involved in her life, buying her brand, there is talent to that. And maybe her talent is...
I mean, like, if you can leverage an entire existence for your entire family out of a sex tape.
Yes.
Holy fuck, I want that kind of magic.
And that's what I'm saying.
Exactly. That is brains.
Yes. So Kim Kardashian is extremely talented. I don't agree with everything she does, but what she has done is allowed people to get to know her. So people truly feel like they know her. So now when I do Randolph Street Market, sometimes it'll be a situation where everyone's slow but me. And it's because I'm leveraging my personality and putting myself out there and creating this as a lifestyle, where most vintage collectors and curators that you see at Randolph, they only shop designer. They find that great piece, put them on the rack, and they sit there and wait for someone to look for it.
And they're very, like I think we chatted a bit about this when we were at Randolph Street. a lot of them are very outpriced, I mean,
Yes.
I love vintage and I love the idea of wearing something that existed in the 50s, 60s, 70s, 90s, whatever. But am I going to really pay $1,000 for something that was worn by somebody else before? Unless it's really off the wall, fabulous,
Yes.
probably not.
Yes.
And I ended up, I think at that day at that Randolph Street Market, talk about Sex in the City. I found um a bag from the 80s that looked like a rolled up Vogue magazine.
Yes.
And I remember in one of the Sex in the City scenes with Carrie, she was on a boat with Big and she had that exact
That
same
same
bag.
bag.
Yeah.
Yes, I
So to
remember.
me, that was a cute find. And it was only $35.
Yes.
To me, that's a
Yes.
vintage find. The Marc Jacobs teddy bear coat that I keep obsessing over. To me, the three.
I'm gonna have to
Look
track
it up.
one down.
Find another one.
I will try to find you another one.
But $300-400 seems like a reasonable price range. But when you're getting up into the close to $1,000, I'm probably going to think a million times before I'm going to put that kind of money out on a vintage piece.
And you have to remember, I think, there's just been this incredible boom with vintage that people are pricing themselves out of markets. For me, I would never bring $1,000 piece to Randolph.
Yeah.
I just wouldn't. I just think there's so much economic diversity there. I just graduated from business school and I've been working with like an acting CFO, and there's really a strategy to what I put out. And I might have one piece that's like 778, but it has to be amazing.
Yeah.
I won't have a rack of it because again, if you can't speak to the piece in a style way, if you can't speak to the history behind the piece, to your point, Teddy, why would you buy something at X price when you could walk into a store, especially if you're a new vintage person,
right?
And you could walk into a store and buy that same thing with a coupon, return policy, and a warranty.
Yeah.
And that's what I tell other dealers is that you really, good luck, but you really need to make it approachable because if not, what's the point of sitting on something forever?
Right. And I think to me, because, like I said, I'm just dipping my toe recently in the vintage pond, is you're really looking for, when you're new to vintage, you're kind of looking for those finds where you got something really that's so different that nobody else has, but yet you got it at $50, $100, something like that. That's when you really feel like you found like that hidden treasure.
Yes.
So if I'm going to spend $1,000, I can go to Saks and spend that. It's something brand new. And like you said, that comes with all the warranties. So, when you're first, especially, going into the vintage space, you want the something really like unique, but you also got it at this really great price. You want to feel like you've really found something.
Yeah.
So I agree with you that I think some of them are maybe, expecting a little bit more than they'll actually receive.
I would say also the person who sells it to you has to know the story of that item.
Yes.
Well, right. And I think Melissa is a storyteller, as you can see.
Yeah. I think that's a thing.
The first thing they teach you in luxury sales is the product, like I was working at LV, the product is already sold. People want to know the story first. So we had this thing and it was called Raising the Flags of Louis Vuitton. And it was obviously greeting someone, open-ended greeting, but also talking about the history of the brand. So talking about the family history, talking about how things are made, and then talking about the price. Because what they don't know about the brand is the history. They've seen Beyonce wear it. They see, all the people wear it, but like, what's the history? Or people will say, I would never spend this much for coated canvas, not realizing the Louis Vuitton Gaston family were the first people to make flatbed trunks that were sitting on the Titanic. And the reason when the Titanic happened, they were stackable trunks, and they were getting all of people's stuff from the bottom of the sea. The Louis Vuitton, everything that inside the trunks were pristine because they were the first airtight trunks that were ever made. So when you think about that, you're like, wow, this is a part of history.
And
so
it
knowing
attests
those
to the
things,
quality as well.
It tests to the quality, the craftsmanship, and it makes you feel closer to the brand.
Yeah.
So learning those things in New York and being able to sell a piece based off of the last person's journey, or just understanding why this piece is so important, or looking for union tags and knowing that a woman made it in World War II when there weren't any men in factories. Those things are important. And because you have an influx of newbies selling vintage, they're buying like the Y2K fast fashion, which I'm into, but there has to be a mix.
Yeah, you want that story that something is special, that something, even if it's mass marketed, that it feels bespoke, because you said, oh, the union tags, so that women made it. And I was like, oh, I'd never heard of that. But of course I want that.
Yeah.
You just educated me, and I'm like, yes, I'll pay a premium price for that. I was like, shit, I fell for the Louis Vuitton scam.
We all did.
We all did.
I just learned at my journey in, commission retail and just being at the pinnacle of fashion in New York that, what really makes you seal the deal is service and just knowledge. So,
And the stories, especially if you're really into fashion, just make everything so much more extra special.
100%.
Just to go on your Louis Vuitton thing, just a quick story. The Louis Vuitton Speedy bag was really popular in the 90s. And I bought two of them. I bought the bigger one. I can't remember the numbers now, but one was bigger. But I also bought this really small one, because in the 90s, there were small bags for a while. Mm-hmm. And then I actually thought of giving the bag to, I shouldn't say this, giving the bag to my grandson's sister, a little girl, because I thought, oh, that bag would fit a little girl really good, until I read a story one day about the Louis Vuitton Speedy bag, and I found out that it was actually created on demand for Audrey Hepburn.
Yes.
Because Audrey Hepburn used to carry Louis Vuitton luggage all the time. And she said, couldn't you make me like a tote kind of bag so I can carry in the airport? And the smaller Speedy bag was created for Audrey to carry as a handbag. And I have that exact small Louis Vuitton Speedy bag. And I don't even know if they make that size anymore. So that made me want to hang on to it even more. So sorry.
Yes.
What you don't know, Melissa, is that she's got a ton of Audrey Hepburn books and memorabilia.
Audrey Hepburn. So when they said that was made specifically for Audrey Hepburn, and I had it, that made that bag so much more extra special to me. I mean, I was ready to give it away at one point, and then when I heard the story, it was like, oh no, now I have to.
Sorry, little girl. I'll be taking this bag.
I know you like that.
Here's a connection I do want to make, though. The storytelling you're talking about, like giving this holistic look at a product, you're doing the same thing with your branding. You've got your Kameo TV. You're like, actually, I contain multitudes. And that's what's interesting to us as people, right? We're like, oh, we've done this filtering, this one-dimensional stuff, and it's boring. And you're like, I'm Kameo Vintage, and I'm all of this stuff. And that's super interesting. So I do want to point that out. We're talking about Louis Vuitton and this like roundness of the story. And Melissa is doing the same thing with her brand, and it's extremely smart. And this is why you're going into helping style these up and coming vintage, and maybe not just up and coming, other people who are into vintage and other businesses that don't know exactly how to price or how to do these things. You're like, listen, I've been through this, I've done this, I've learned from the best, and I've been doing this a while. I think that's fascinating.
Yeah. And that will definitely draw in more customers. I'm already more excited now to go to your store. Even though I love your style. I remember at the FGI gala, she had on this fabulous leopard. It was like this hooded, beautiful. I mean, where the heck did you get that? Just tell me.
Oh, yes, absolutely. So Norma Kamali is one of my favorite designers. And I don't know if a lot of people know this, but she actually designed half of the costumes in The Wiz, which featured Diana Ross. Yes. So there's a scene that she designed. And I think she just knows how to make really fabulous clothing for women. I think her fits are incredible. The fabric's incredible and long lasting. So whenever I'm in a bind where I can't find anything, or if I just want something new, Norma Kamali is like
That
my
was fabulous.
go-to.
That was fabulous what you were. Well, you know, Norma Kamali became famous for a dress that was made out of a sleeping bag. You do know that.
So this, you're talking about the coat, the sleeping bag coat.
Yeah, the sleeping bag coat.
I've had one, and I'm so mad that I sold it.
Oh,
yeah, I've had an original sleeping bag.
Yeah, that would be a real find. A Norma Kamali sleeping bag coat would definitely be a big find.
Yes.
So if you ever find one, you know who to
add it to the list.
Teddy's got a list.
Well, before we end, I'm telling you, you were a fascinating guest, Melissa. I always love listening to you. You're very engaging. So I don't think you're going to have any problem becoming hugely famous at some point. But
right now, today's
the day.
It happens the minute your episode airs, you will become famous.
But it already happened. We just don't know it yet. Melissa plants all of those seeds.
Right.
They say when you chase things that you already are entitled to, it's because your life has already happened, and that is actually the journey.
It's just unfolding.
Correct. And you just have to, follow the journey.
Follow it. Go with it. Well, before we leave, there's one question that we always like to ask our and this is especially pertinent to you, Miss Vintage. What is your favorite era or eras in fashion, and why?
So, that's a really difficult question. But if I had to break it down to one era, it would be the 70s. I would say the 70s. Yeah, the 70s is great is because I think diversity was challenging the status quo.
Yes.
You had the Black is Beautiful movement. You had women entering the workforce. You had women in politics. That was when it was okay to wear an afro, to wear jeans and bell bottoms, and that's when people kind of reconnected and unplugged from social norms. And you could really see that in the clothing.
Right, even men dressed more feminine and more.
Yeah. And then also you'll see things like, J.C. Penney from that era is actually quite fabulous. I don't know if anyone remembers, but J.C. Penney was like, what Macy's was and what Lord and Taylor was. And also you could see like really fun fashion coming and shining through during that disco time. Yeah. So all the things that we see that Forever 21 was making that, I don't shop at Temu, but Fashion Nova is making is all inspired by that disco 70s era.
I loved it. Well, I lived through it. I was
lucky you.
The 70s was my late teens all the way through my mid 20s.
Oh, that's fabulous.
Yeah, that's, when you think of your best era, your most fun era, most people think of, graduating from high school and the years after that until they're about 25, 26. And I got married in 1978. I was 24 years old. And I remember Studio 54.
Yes.
What do you call that? Off the shoulder dress with the glitter and the hustle. We dance. And it was fabulosity on steroids.
Yes, steroids. Exactly.
It was wonderful. And I know that now some of the 70s and 80s are starting to come back. Some of the glam looks of those eras are starting to kind of creep back in. Everything's kind of circular. So I think we're hopefully headed towards that period of time. But I agree with you. That was my absolute favorite was the 70s. And if I had to go back a little further, it would be the 30s. I loved all the glam and the bias.
Yes, the era of like the lady, everything had like a glove that matched.
Right. Gloves, hats.
Yes, everything. That's also a very good era too.
Yeah, so I loved that. Thank you. Go ahead. Did you have one more question?
I did.
Okay. Go right ahead there, Missy.
I was like, do you think we're going to get back to this? We're going to hit this rebound point where we get back to celebrating our differences through the way we dress. Do you think we're going back that way? You're selling things,
So yes, I do. When I do my vintage buys or when I'm looking for certain things, sometimes I'll travel, and that means sitting in New York and the Lower East Side, seeing what people are wearing, going to London, going to Paris, and really kind of making sure that I'm like, remain cutting edge. And what I'm seeing because of these political times that we're in, and these digital times that we're in, is that people want real. So what you're going to see is small stores like mine popping up adjacent to their e-commerce space and helping one-on-one clients like back in the day. I think what's missing, and this is like what all my clients are saying, and it's so funny because I saw an Instagram posting of this woman in New York is doing it in her home, is that there's no one real anymore. You can't go to, you used to have a guy at Nordstrom's. You used to have someone would do all of your Christmas gifts because this woman who works at Lord and Taylor knows you. It was prom time. You used to have a woman that would fit you for dresses. So all of that is gone and obsolete, and there is no human connection when it comes to style. There's no creativity because people are constantly posting. And I think what's going to happen is, I know it's hard. I already see it with my son, is people are going to unplug because it's too much.
It's already happening.
It's already happening today.
Yeah.
Humans, we're in the times that we're living, it's sensory overload.
It is.
And I think humans in general need 10 minutes, maybe 30 minutes per day of absolute silence to be the person that they are. Our attention spans are changing. People are receiving information differently, and they are romanticizing information that's absolutely wrong.
Right.
And what's going to happen is people are going to unplug and go back to the human relationship. So I might have created a niche maybe 3 years ago, but I'm seeing more and more a lot of empty commercial properties that are huge mega properties. And I'm seeing more petite properties where people are coming in by appointment. So that's what it's going to go back to for sure.
Yeah. We're going to go back to more individualized style because we're having more one-on-one connection, which allows for that kind of creativity to spark and pull up.
Well, there's that piece. And also there's like the whole tariff situation. People are not going to be able to afford the same things. And there's going to be another kind of influx of secondhand because it's not going to be affordable.
Yeah.
Right. It's not going to be affordable. Everything's going to go up 4 or 5 times.
Correct.
Everything is overpriced as it is right now.
I mean, honestly, if you thought about the cost of fast fashion to our future, you wouldn't buy it anyway.
Temu, which is, one of the ultimate fast fashion places, just announced today or the other day that their other prices are going to go up. So even the fast fashions are going to be starting to be, you're going to get this cheap crap, which before, if you paid $10, $15 for it, you figured, okay, I'll wear it once and bounce it over to, some Goodwill or something like that. But those are even going to go up to $40, $50, $60. And then you're not going to want to pay $60 for some flimsily made thing.
Correct.
So, Melissa said, people will start looking for more personalized shopping relationships, pieces that are, like you said, pre-loved, but were well taken care of. Have a story to them, have some specialness to them. I think we all yearn more for that human connection now. Melissa and I, ironically, before we began our talk with you, we were talking about, sometimes it's just too much, all this information coming at you, with the political situation the way it is, and the news coming at you, and programs and Instagram and telling you buy this and buy that. It comes to the point where you don't want to get anything because there's too much to pick from.
Yeah.
Nothing is special anymore.
Correct.
And so I think vintage may be part of the answer to finding, if we can find somebody special like you, Melissa, to tell us the stories behind these pieces.
Are you saying vintage could save America?
It could.
Yes.
It could.
Yes, it
vintage,
can.
Melissa Carter and vintage are saving the world.
Exactly. Make vintage great again, for sure.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Melissa. You've been a wonderful guest, and you're always
for having me.
entertaining to talk to. And one of these days, I'm going to make an appointment and I'm going to come out to see your place because now you've really got my interest. And we'll spend the day and you can style me up a little bit.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I would love to.
Okay, doll. Thank you so much for coming on our show today.
All right.
Thank you.
I got one more question for you.
And what is it, Melissa?
Why don't we dress for dinner anymore, Teddy?
I don't know, Melissa. Why don't we?
Beats me.
I think, in the art of COVID, people are really being misled about style. And I think, especially in this country, we have told people it is okay to show up.
Looking like you just fell out of bed.
It's interesting because when I have people start here, I'll tell them the importance of having style integrity. And style integrity is important in any environment you are in. If you were going to go to a hairstylist and her hair was all over her head and she was the best hairstylist in the world, you wouldn't believe her. However, if you were going to someone next to her just started and looked completely put together, you would want to go to them.
Absolutely.
So I try to explain to my interns, they're not allowed to wear sweatpants here.
Oh.
You do have to come in with, I'm not saying you have to be in a full beat, but you do have to come in with makeup, nail polish. It's either on or off, because those are the last details that someone is going to remember. And I remember working in handbags, luxury handbags, and they only allow you to wear red French tips or a clear manicure. Because when you're holding the product, no one wants to remember your nails.
Right.
And it's really important when you're talking about a piece, or even if you don't know about a piece, someone says, you know what, this person looks sharp. I'm going to believe them because of their style integrity. So I think style integrity has been completely compromised.
Yes,
so now people have no clue. And it's a shame because I see all these young people going into the workforce and kind of scrambling because they don't know having style integrity is actually business etiquette.
Oh, it's everything.
Yes.
We've talked about in past podcasts, we've talked about how important it is when the way you walk into an interview for a job.
Yes.
The first thing they assess is the way you look. And if you look like a schlump, everything from that point on coming out of your mouth is going to
They don't hear.
Meh.
Yeah.
If you come in looking sharp, well put together, you can say meh stuff and they're still looking at you like she's sharp. She knows what she's talking about,
It's definitely a soft skill for sure.
It is definitely a skill. And I think it's a skill that's lacking in most people. I mean, let's face it, when you look around, most people do not look well put together.
At all.
Like I said, I was telling, we had a professor from Notre Dame on, she's our last episode that was up before today's episode. And I was telling her, I went to brunch and there was these young, beautiful girls and they looked like they fell out of bed. They had short sweatpants on and it was 50 degrees outside. Their hair in a lopsided bun that looked like they had been sleeping on it. Literal bedroom slippers on. And they're, out to breakfast on a Sunday. I remember when you went out to breakfast on a Sunday, it was usually like for most people, we weren't churchly people, but a lot of people were. They were coming from church. They were dressed Sunday best. Everybody kind of showed up looking really nice, Now it looks like everybody just kind of like stuck their pants on, grab the car keys and go kind of a thing.
Everyone looks like they're in a rush.
Yeah.
Maybe we're all burnt out and Americans really took it to heart, dress for the job you want. And everyone's like, you know what? I'm done. I don't want a job.
I don't want a job.
And we should have said something different. Like,
yes,
dress for the celebration you want your life to be, or something. I don't know, something else.
It should be dress for your trajectory.
Yes.
Right? Dress for what you want.
Dress for your future.
Aspire to be what you aspire
yes.
to be.
I have no aspiration though. I don't want anything. I did everything already. Now I just want to make art and have fun. So whatever that is.
Right. But you can still dress artistically. You don't have to look like a slump when you're making art.
Right. Thus fashion's Mrs. Crystal. I'm going with it. But we need not dress for the job you want, but dress for the future you want.
Right.
It has nothing to do with the job. I think we just take capitalism out of the equation and we all start dressing better.
And if you look good, no matter what you're doing, you do it better.
You do it better.
You just do it better because you feel better about yourself. So anyway, Dal, thanks so much for coming on our show.
Yes, thank you so much.
And like I said, my husband's a big fan of yours, so.
We're all big fans.
Thanks for listening to Why Don't We Dress for Dinner Anymore? Please remember to subscribe and give us a 5-star rating. That really helps people find us.
And if you're a brand and want to sponsor the show, please email us at whydon'twedressfordinner@gmail.com, also linked in the show notes.
And if you're a fabulous person and you want to support our work, join us on our Patreon or take us out to dinner sometime and we'll be sure to dress up for you.